It is no longer shocking to turn on your TV, go online, or buy a newspaper and see a story about someone losing their life at the hands of the opposite sex. The sad reality of gender-based violence is that it has become part of our society. The act has left many families devastated and full of questions. In this documentary, we will look at some of the interventions by stakeholders to try and reduce cases of gender-based violence and some of the most prominent murder cases reported in Zambia. Every year, Zambia observes the annual 16 days of activism against gender-based violence. According to the police, 55 gender-based violence, which resulted in murder cases, were recorded in 2017 alone. Now this represents an increase of 25.5% compared to 41 recorded in the same period in 2016. There's also been a sharp increase of 32.3% in cases of assault occasioning actual bodily harm recorded as of 2017, with 1,644 cases being recorded this year against 1,359 cases in 2016. Of the number of the victims of assault recorded in 2017, 82.7% were female. Zambia ranks highest in gender-based violence cases in Southern Africa, and statistics indicate that women are the most vulnerable when it comes to gender-based violence, and there are quite a number of organizations helping survivors of gender-based violence. The total number of GBV cases reported from the first quarter to the third quarter of 2017 stands at 16,090, compared to 13,092 GBV cases during the same period in 2016, representing an increase of 2,998. Stakeholders have continued to make efforts towards fighting gender-based violence. The Young Men Christian Association is doing its part to ensure that young people take an active role in the fight against GBV. The organization was founded in 1958 to respond to the needs of young people.
What we're trying to do is that with this project, the real man is, we don't have really a criteria, but we're looking at every young person that is out there, every young male who's out there. And either ways, they might have been in one way or another, have been dominant over a female because of how they were brought up. So every young person who's out there, between the ages of 15 to 24, those are the young people we're bringing into our different local associations and instilling in them principles that would guide them into becoming more responsible young men in society and perceive females as partners, and like where they look at them as the female has to do all the chores, the female has to be submissive, be it wrong or right, she just has to say yes. So those are the norms that we're trying to bring out of the young men so that they do not live with these stereotypes of thinking that they have to be dominant, or they do not have to participate in any kind of domestic work, or they do not have to do any kind of, they do not have to perceive women as equal partners in socioeconomic development, be it in school, all those areas. So we're trying to instill a certain sense, a change, a paradigm shift in how a young person thinks from the way they've been brought up. Because if you've noticed that most of our young people, we're being told that men are not supposed to show their emotions. But that is one thing that is actually even crippling most men, because without showing your emotions, that's why now they become too aggressive and they feel like the females have more attention and like the males, hence they're becoming violent towards the female folk.
The YMCA holds meetings with young people to discuss social issues and to look at ways to reduce gender-based violence, starting with these young ones. Stanford Hamwemba is an intern here. He facilitates meetings with a different topic each time and seeks to find solutions to fight gender-based violence as a team using the YMCA.
Right now in the Real Man Africa project, we've got tools that actually we use to gauge our progress. So we do community outreaches other than these discursive forums. When we go there, we get statistics, and then we follow up on these people, train them to be what we are calling the real men, which is transformative masculinity. So we are working with different other stakeholders, secondary schools, tertiary education institutions, and our communities. And yeah, we've got tools we are using. We are collecting information from the people that we are targeting, and we constantly check on them. So we've actually have a proper monitoring and evaluation system that we are using.
Although the YMCA program is dubbed #ARealManIs, young women also play an active role in ensuring that young people are sensitized on issues to do with gender-based violence and the role they can play to deter the vicious cycle in society. Eunice Phiri is also part of the YMCA program, and she and her counterparts are driving this agenda and leaving no stone unturned.
In my opinion, I think if you feel that you're suffocated, you feel suffocated in a relationship, I would rather you just let it go. No matter how much you say you love that person, at no instance is gender-based violence ever justified, either being perpetrated by a man or a woman. It's better you just get out of the relationship, but it's not justifiable.
More often than not, males who abuse females usually start showing signs as they grow. The signs may not be very alarming. Dominative masculinity, which, if not dealt with at a young age, could turn a young boy into a GBV perpetrator. Parents need to look at this as a red flag. 20-year-old Simon Mobita shares some of the telltale signs of the beginning of gender-based violence in young people.
Because before I came here, I didn't even know some of the small things that we used to do were actually offensive and considered, as acts of gender-based violence, such as winking at a woman. Every time you see a lady, think you're the man, see her passing, you're like, baby, So, such things are actually acts of, you're harassing somebody, So when I came here, I learned a lot of things, I was enriched with a lot of knowledge. My facilitators, Mr. Ken and Mr. Dan, were very, very, elaborate. They explained things properly. I saw things in a different light, and I feel changed.
This young man has been affected by gender-based violence which took place in his home.
Because in mind of school, affecting family. I
was not interested in school because of the tension in our home, which used to affect me. I used to think a lot until I came to YMCA and I went back to school. I realized that my life is important. To those getting into marriage, please try and understand each other. Give each other a chance to talk, and if you have a girlfriend, please do not allow her to come to your home and disrespect your wife.
Don't allow ujamkazi kufika pa nyumba ya mzake ujamkulu uyapeza mzake mshkwati.
Statistics: indirect gender-based violence also has an effect on people who experience it. The National Legal Aid Clinic for Women has been working with survivors of gender-based violence.
I wish to encourage those victims that are still fearing to come out, because it will damage them psychologically as long as they continue harboring or hiding the situations of gender violence. So it's better people, they have to come up, they have to be courageous. No matter what, let them fight, let them speak out, let them go to report to the police. Sometimes they're not given a very welcome environment, but they have to fight for their freedom. They must fight to be heard. What is important is the society to be knowledgeable, and the government has provided a good fora for this GBV. The laws are clear. So people, let them not shun. Let them be strong. Knowledge is power. Let them seek advice. Let them read. There's a lot of information about GBV and how it can be solved in our societies.
Survivors of gender-based violence may become traumatized and their state of mind becomes affected. Chainama Hills Hospital deals with people affected by gender-based violence.
We as a hospital, we do provide a comprehensive package, and we may attribute why some of these patients are not brought to this hospital, maybe because of stigma. As you are aware, Chainama Hospital, when people are brought here, they think everyone is mentally sick. And yet, when a victim is affected or is violated, and as we are in the week of gender activism, there are many people who are abused, either by their husbands or their relatives. This is the right place where they need to come, because we do even provide counseling and psychological assessments, and they might even get better help.
The Young Women Christian Association also plays its role in ensuring that women who've been abused are taken care of and given information that they need to avoid staying in abusive relationships.
We had a lot of issues around racial discrimination. So these two ladies came here to see how best they could fight racial discrimination between blacks and whites. And they wanted to work with the women, the wives to the black men, to see how best they could use Christian values to reduce on discrimination. We realized the importance of having more of similar activities across the country, especially along the line of rail. Most of the offices that were established in the 1970s were along the line of rail, and they quickly spread across the country. At the moment, we are spread in 9, in terms of membership, we're in all the 10 provinces. But in terms of our presence, where we are very active, it's in 9 provinces.
These are some of the victims that lost their lives to gender-based violence recently, and the matters are currently before the courts of law. Lipimile Litebele was shot 5 times by his wife, Precious Longwe, who was sentenced to death by hanging, but has since appealed against her conviction. Reeves Malambo, aged 48, was allegedly stabbed to death by his lover Shabu Benos on January 29th after an altercation. Benos has pleaded not guilty. In July, Charity Namukoko, aged 30, was allegedly shot dead by her husband Peter Sewale in front of their children. She was in the company of a man identified as Andrew Chibesa, aged 27, who Peter suspected had been having an affair with his wife. He too was shot dead. Siwale is in police custody. In the same month of July, Mumba Kalaba was allegedly killed by her husband Tobias Mwale, aged 33. Police found a machete soaked in blood with the victim's head almost cut off. On October 5th, 26-year-old Precious Mangisana was shot dead by her 34-year-old boyfriend Shinka Kaputo. The bullet projectile also got stuck in the neck of their 2-year-old daughter, who survived the incident. On October 16th, George Chavula was allegedly stabbed to death by his wife while he was asleep. These cases are just among the many cases of the devastating effects of gender-based violence. This year's theme for the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence is Leave No One Behind, End Violence Against Women and Girls. The fight against gender-based violence is clearly being taken seriously in Zambia, but is this enough? How many more lives will have to be lost before the message can finally be put into practice by the would-be offenders and perpetrators?